Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Hey folks, Bruce Hutchin with Whitetail Rendezvous, and I'm really happy to be heading east and to catching Chris LaCivita before he goes to Virginia Tech, and he's going to be studying business there. But this show's not about a college student going away and leaving his guns and fishing rods at home. Actually, it's about sportsman culture and why that began and what Chris and the crew are thinking about as they go through their college experience, because they're going to build sportsman culture out, and hopefully it'll turn into something that will be a career for them. So having said that, Chris, welcome to the show, and I'm just excited to hear about the hunting and the fishing and the catching those fish offshore. You guys have been busy for the last 8 or 10 years, huh?
Yeah. I've only been hunting for, 8 years, I guess you can say. I started hunting when I was 10. My dad introduced it to me, and he hadn't been a big hunter his entire life. It was really after he was out of the Marines and he wanted to find something to do that really, he enjoyed, and he got me into hunting. And since, these last 8 years, I've just grown as a hunter and as a conservationist, and I love every part of it. And sportsman's culture, was something I started only a year ago. And I had, around 2014, 2015 is when I started to get big into Instagram. And, I saw these other pages that were trying to make these, small Instagram businesses based on the hunting and fishing and the outdoors. And the first one I had was called Fishing Daily, and I was all about fishing. That's all I wanted to do. And then slowly that changed to Eastern Pursuit, which was one I had. And I grew that to about 4,000 followers. And then just last year, I had the opportunity, another guy that I worked with, he was a guy that kind of like Instagram partners was the type of deal we had. And he basically said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. You can have my Instagram page and you can grow it and do whatever you want with it. And he gave me the rights to it. And I said, I'm going to start this thing called Sportsman's Culture. It's a great name, and try to make it into a business and a brand for the outdoors.
So who's the member of the team? Talk to me about your team members.
So I have currently right now, I have 4 other team members. 3 of them are very close friends of mine. I went to school, so I have Kendall Dreyer, Will Potter, Jake Shatner, and Ryan Kruger. And basically, 3 of them, Jake, Will, and Jake and Kendall went to high school with me, and they've been hunting, just around the same amount of time as I have. And, when you go to a high school, especially, this time, like the way society is nowadays, and you're able to find a couple people that enjoy the same thing you do, especially hunting and fishing, you really get close with them. And so we've basically just been hunting and fishing and filming everything since sophomore year of high school. And when the opportunity for sportsman's culture came along, they're all about it, and they just want to hunt, fish, and do everything we can to show other people and viewers, more about the struggles and the challenges that actual hunters, common people actually have. Because, the outdoor industry nowadays, everyone knows is huge. And the, outdoor television, it almost seems like it's a whole advertisement, the entire time. And we kind of want to just show other people the realities of the hunt All of my team members do. And, I think it's kind of the meaning is in the name itself, sportsman's culture.
So when you look at what you're trying to do, if I understand it, you're saying, okay, here's the reality of it, and we all know there's a lot of great shows on Sportsman Channel and Pursuit Channel,
Outdoor channel. Yeah.
and all those. I mean, you just think of Carbon TV and Gen 7 TV. I mean, it's just this proliferation of it. And so why do you think you can gain traction with your tribe, with your viewers?
Because, like I said, we want to create a community of outdoorsmen and conservationists. We're in the process right now. We're young. It's only been a year since we've really started. And we have all the, trademark, all that stuff behind us now. And now we're focusing, building a website, and we want to have, a forum on there where people can feel like, they're connected with us, that they have a relationship with us. And it's not that, all those bigger hunting shows, I know they have a lot of these things. But I think people are going to, just from the feedback I've already had on Instagram, we have 24,000 followers on Instagram. That's our main platform right now.
How did you get 24,000 followers in a year?
Well, so basically how it started was the page had some followers already on it. Because like I said, I partnered with the page before, and
Eastern Pursuit, right? Eastern Pursuit?
It was the first one, and Sportsman's Culture was the other one that had, I forget the exact amount of how many followers it had, but then when my buddy said, I don't want this anymore, you can have it, he gave me Sportsman's Culture. And before, it was just a page where people would, send in photos of stuff they had, killed or caught or whatnot. And I wanted to create it into a business. And the second I was able to do that, it kind of just shot off. And I still like to keep the part, where people are sending photos and whatnot to us. But we're trying to create a relationship with our followers, a community, where they feel like they're involved as well.
Okay, but 24,000 followers on Instagram is significant. I know there's larger people, but how did you specifically do that to get followers just to say, they wanted to follow you?
Okay. So, there's a lot of different strategies that people use.
Or maybe we should take that offline because, you and I talk about that, offline, and we'll set a time because I don't want to take away from your story. But folks, I guess here's the underscore of what I'm getting at. Social media can help you grow a business, an idea, a tribe, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, ethnicity, dollars, whatever. You can build a tribe on that, and it's a matter of figuring out and getting it to work. And so that's what I love about social media. Here I am, a mature gentleman, twice Chris's grandfather's age, but still we're still talking because we reached common ground. And so let's go back to the beginnings. We talked about the beginnings of your group, Sportsman's Culture. Now, what do you want it to become? And I heard some of it. We want it to be a place people can see people like just you and me hunting and fishing and doing things in the outdoors. The business part, talk to me about that.
So we're in the process of basically creating a brand. That's what we want Sportsman's Culture to be. If you go around all these hunting shops, Bass Pro, Cabela's, all these places, you'll see all types of different brands with their apparel, sold in these stores. And basically the way we're looking at it right now, we got a couple years of a lot of dirty work we have to do to get there. We have to build through networking. We need to have a strong foundation before we can get there. And we're just starting to do apparel. And we also, I didn't mention this earlier, but we have 4 other companies that we work with. Sigma Outdoors, which is a scent company out of New York. Bone Scope, Deer 30 Mineral, which, by the way, is some of the best mineral I've used, and BearHug Ratchet Straps. And we do advertisements as well with them, just like any other hunting show on the Outdoor Channel you see. But on a business standpoint, we want people, like I said, like a community of outdoorsmen and conservationists, and that are repping our apparel around the country. But we also want to have a strong footing here locally. We're based out of Richmond, Virginia, and there's a ton of outdoorsmen around here, a ton of people that like to hunt. And I think we want to be known, within the community, talking about possibly somewhere down the road, maybe we're going to start guiding some hunts, duck hunting wise. But also, we're talking about maybe starting some archery shoots at some of the farms that we have, and basically just making it a whole community thing, but having the business side of it as selling apparel and, doing work for other companies, advertisement wise.
I should talk to you about Buckwild Coffee. I know there's a lot of coffee companies out there, but I have a brand called Buckwild Coffee. So we'll talk about that, because everybody drinks coffee. I don't drink coffee.
I mean, every morning before we hunt, it's pot of coffee. That's how it has to be.
Oh yeah. No, I get it. So that's something that I'm going to make a note here. Buckwild Coffee, because I'm always looking for people, to get involved in that and to figure out what the heck we're going to do with that. So, having said that, so let's talk about why you hunt. Here you are, 18, 19 years old. Why do you hunt? Because a lot of people don't want you to hunt. I mean, they're in your face, don't want you to hunt. Think hunting's gross, or other adjectives as you want to throw it out. But yet there you are with your buddies at Sportsman Culture, and you're hunters. Why is that?
Well, you know what? Especially the way society is nowadays, like you said, and you got so many people that are just anti-gun, anti-hunting, all this stuff. You go back 30, 40 years, and, it wasn't a big deal when people would show up to school with a dead deer in the back of their truck and, the guns in the rack of their trucks. It was tradition back then. And honestly, when my dad got me started into it when I was 10, especially with all my buddies, when they got started into it, I think a big part of why we hunt is because our parents told us these stories about hunting. And it kind of just ingrains something into you, especially through the experiences that you have while you're out in the woods, that make you just want to continue hunting, to keep that tradition going, because we have a love, for the outdoors, just like every other sportsman. And to be honest, I just couldn't, I honestly don't know what I would be doing if I couldn't hunt, because the amount of joy and excitement that I know it brings me and my friends and my family, it's better than anything else.
So, okay, I hear that. You find joy in it. But let's get down to it. Let's talk about, when you go duck hunting, you sit out the deeks in the early morning, and then you're sitting, and it's wet and it's moist and it's windy, and you're just sitting there waiting for the sun to come up. What does that mean to you?
You know what? Is sitting there, some people, they think you're crazy. I've had people tell me thinking I'm crazy when I'm out there breaking ice and waders, you're duck hunting. It's a sense of peace, I guess you can say. Today, everything's so loud, and just to find something you love like that, and it's just quiet, except, when all the shooting starts. But, not just, duck hunting, but sitting in a tree stand, you have so much time to reflect. And I don't think that's something that, especially today in society, we get to do very often. And it's just special, you know. It's not like anything else. Um, and it's definitely something that I want in the future to be able to pass on to my kids and my family.
Yeah, I think about, duck hunting and setting up and shooting my limit and then just leaving my deeks in there. And then as it gets darker and darker, web feet down and they're just working the decoys and they come splashing in and they start chuckling and feeding and you go, oh my goodness. I mean, you can't capture that. You can't capture that on film.
It's
You
happening.
can't do that.
When it's happening, it's just everything is just nothing else in the world matters. You know, the only thing that matters is that duck's going to come into your spread and you're going to shoot him. You know, and
or not even shoot them.
not even shoot them. Just get the opportunity to watch them work. You know,
right? Is that
and
crazy? Is that kind of crazy?
It's hard to explain to other, especially when you got non-hunters that are saying like, how do you enjoy doing this? How do you enjoy hunting? And you're just like, I don't know. I mean, it's just something that like you and I can only talk to each other sportsmen. You know, there's just something about it. And like you said, you know, some people they go out and they're just like, oh, I want to shoot my limit. You know, and if I don't shoot my limit, it's a bad day. You know, here in Virginia, we we barely shoot limits. It's not the Midwest where you've got thousands of geese and mallards coming in. We go back in the swamp, we kill a couple wood ducks, and we are completely satisfied just because it's another day we can hunt, and have fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just thinking, some of the places I've been fortunate to hunt, especially up in Canada, where one time the guy told us, well, it's about 25,000 snow geese above your head right now.
Yeah,
and it's just, and the sun's coming up, and they're making all sorts of racket, and they're in their tornado mode, and it's just like, I'm living it, and that's the thing that I wish, we could articulate to the non-hunters. Just don't even take a gun. Just come with me.
Yeah.
Go to those wheat fields. Just lay out in the blind. First of all, you got to set up a gazillion decoys. Then you just sit back, have your cup of coffee, and just all of a sudden the sun start come up and game on. And it's just, to experience that, because I think, and I liked how you said there's so much noise today because we can't get away from it. Why? Because we have our cell phones with us at all times, and earbuds in, and, we don't get away from it. Then here we are, a couple of guys saying, why don't you just go sit in a wet marsh with your dog, throw out some deeks, and just sit there for a couple hours and see what happens. See how the earth around you works. I wish we could articulate that better. And I hope. Go ahead.
So something that I know what you meant. Wish we could show that better to the world. But that's something that as sportsman culture, that's something we want to do. Through film. We don't have the most expensive cameras and all this stuff, but it's so much more than just, the hunt. The hunt, that's the bulk of it, but it's being able to show people, waking up in the morning, getting the cup of coffee, the side talk you have before, the excitement that goes into it, throwing out the deeks in the cold, the conversation you have while you're in the blind, and then just the joy and the happiness after the hunt. We want to be able to wrap all that together and just, show it to people and show them that it's not just about killing. It's about everything else that goes into hunting. And I think that is, the meaning of sportsman's culture itself.
Let's switch it up and talk about, what do you love better, hunting turkeys or hunting whitetails?
That's a hard question. I'll have to go with turkeys because I love early deer season, bow hunting. There's just something about getting into the woods, end of October, early November. It's crisp, it's not too cold, and bucks are chasing does. There's scrapes, there's rubs. It's the best. That's the best thing ever. Nothing is better than that. But especially here in Virginia, we don't have the luxury of having, all these giant bucks everywhere. And the way I grew up to it, really your best time to hunt, just like everywhere else, is that small period during the rut. But then we get dog hunters that run their dogs through, and just the rest of the season, the last month of the season, month and a half, is just blown out, and you won't see a deer because there's dogs running everywhere. And so when turkey season comes, I just feel like there's nothing better than, you're waking up, you hit that owl call, and then the pines, the woods, everything just explodes. Birds gobbling. And I think I like turkey hunting more just because it's kind of, run and gun. It's constant compared to just sitting in a stand and waiting. You're always on your feet, and you can hear that bird coming in. And then when they display for you, it's beautiful. And there's just something about killing a turkey, shooting a turkey after chasing one all day or chasing one all season. You just feel very, successful about it.
Talk to me about chasing turkeys. The only turkeys I've hunted is I hunt them out of a blind, and this is set up, and you get Tom or Jake and a hen out there, and as decoys, and then somebody's calling them in, and they come in, and just say they display, and game over. You shoot them, but running and gunning with turkeys is a little bit different. Explain that to me.
So I know out west, you guys, that is a big thing, sitting in a blind, just because it's a lot more open, especially, different places. And there's places in Virginia, I've hunted out of a blind before, but running and gunning, it's just, this is how I learned to turkey hunt. This is how my buddies did. And you locate a bird. When you hear that bird, you get as close as possible without spooking him. Set up. If your surrounding, it's better, so where he might get hung up. But you work that bird for an hour or so, and usually they'll shut up. And you just sit there, you wait. Usually you just bring a turkey vest, sit down on a tree. After he shuts up, usually about 30, 40 minutes of just calling every 10 minutes, some yelps, purring a little. And if he doesn't show up, it's usually, he's moved on, he's found a hen. And then we go on to locate another bird. And we killed, this year we only got to hunt because of, I was in school, I could only hunt on the weekends for turkeys. And we killed 3 birds this year by running and gunning. And there is, I feel like, a sense of excitement to it because you're constantly chasing that bird and setting up, and someone's pointing, oh, he's gobbling that way, no, he's gobbling that way, and it's pure chaos when you have a ton of birds around you, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Now, do you have decoys that you find a tree, put your back up, put your decoys out, and then?
Yeah, we do that too. We do put decoys out. Sometimes it depends though, because we'll have birds come in, they'll look at the decoy, and they're gone. They don't like it. Second day of the season this year, I called in a bird. He came sprinting down a hill, and the second he saw the decoy, he went right back up the hill, and he was gone. Sometimes I wish I could know what that bird is thinking, because you think it's going to be perfect, and then everything just falls apart. But I think the first bird we killed this year was killed with a decoy, and the last 2 birds were not. They just came into the calling, and when they because sometimes I feel like, when they see the decoy, they can get hung up, and they won't come to shooting range, compared to when you're calling and they can't find the bird. They're going to be a little more curious, and they're going to try to get as close as possible, and then you're able to shoot one. So when you're running and gunning, I actually prefer not to use a decoy, but I always keep one on me just in case.
So why don't you run and gun on whitetails?
It's just, whitetail, it's just, it's completely different. For, around here, you've got the oaks, a lot of oaks and acorns, and where they're going to be feeding. We can't bait in Virginia. So a lot of scouting goes into it. It's mostly oaks, mountains, and pines. And if you go walking around through the woods with a gun, you're not going to see a deer. because they'll smell you before you're there, or they'll hear you. And we just have to play the wind right and hope one comes by through our scouting, putting out trail cameras, and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, the run and gun technique is that you're in a for lack of a better word, an observation stand. You know the deer are there, and you're just waiting to pattern them. No matter pre-rut, chasing phase, seeking phase, the actual rut and post, and then you're just trying to figure it out, and then you just take your hang on, and then you go to where they are, because the more and more I talk to guys like you and people that are really good deer hunters, they say they get about 3 sits on one deer, and if they blow that, then they got to go find another deer. Well, what's your thought about that?
I do believe that. I do take a climber with me. The majority of the hunting I did this year was in a climber. So I guess you can call that running and gunning in a way. We have our designated ladder stands, but if we get pictures of a buck and we know he's using this area, and you can't go into that one spot every single day, because they're going to know. The wind's not going to be the same every day. You got to play the wind right, because if you don't, and that buck smells you once, there's a pretty good chance he's not going to be coming back to that spot during the day. He's going to become nocturnal. And one of the things that we struggle with here in Virginia, like I said, we have dog hunters. And once December rolls in and it's gun season, the dog hunters they'll run their dogs through everyone's property, perfectly legal, because as long as they're hunting on their property, they can run their dogs through someone else's property. And it makes all the deer nocturnal. So for us, we have that small gap of bow season and muzzleloader season to get a couple sits in on that nice buck to shoot them. Because once gun season rolls around, it's most likely not going to happen.
Okay, explain to me, as long as I'm on my 100 acres, that's where the dog's going to run the deer back to, and my dog can run the whole township and, chase the deer back to my 100 acres. Is that basically what you're saying?
So, not exactly, because a dog can go wherever he wants to, but the way we are, I hunt in a county, Buckingham County. We have 3,000 acres there where we hunt, and we're a sit-only, stand-only hunt club. And all the hunt clubs around us run dogs. So our main properties might be 1,000 acres, but they are surrounded by other hunt clubs. And what they'll do is they'll line up almost in a circle on their property with a gun. They'll sit down in a chair. It's perfectly legal. They're sitting on their property, and they'll be on the other side, and they'll release dogs. And those dogs will run straight through the property. Sometimes they don't. And the second they get on a deer, they'll chase that deer all the way until they cross the road and they get onto their property where they can shoot it. Now, that's some hunt clubs who do that. Not every hunt club will do that. The Virginia Dog Hunting Association is a really big part of Virginia, and I'm not saying anything bad about it, because the majority of dog hunters, they do it right. They run through their property and they kill a lot of nice deer, but it's when they start to cross the boundaries that it can get, kind of difficult for stand hunters.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around, if my neighbor's running dogs through my, my property, then every single deer in there is gone.
Yeah. And that's what happens. Gone. And it becomes a wasteland almost. You won't see a deer for, I've had times in December, it's cold, and I won't see a deer for a week, because I constantly hear the dogs. The dog hunters, they'll say, some of them will say, I didn't mean to run them through your property. And most of the time they're not lying. It could be that they're running a dog on their property, and that dog got a sniff, and he chased the deer that was on their property through our property. And while he was running through our property, he got on the trail of a deer on our property, and he ends up taking a whole herd off the property. And there's nothing you can do about that, because it's a dog, and he's going to go wherever he's trained to follow the trail to wherever it ends. And that's just how it is in Virginia.
Yeah, and the hunting tradition, I'm sure is hundreds of years old, hunting, and so, you're probably not going to change that. And maybe you shouldn't, I've never hunted deer over dogs, but I think it would be kind of cool. Um, I'm not so sure if I'd like my dogs running through somebody else's property. Um, but
It's a tough.
that's in Virginia. That's not out, that's not out west, or that's not in different areas. And you got to kind of go with the tradition, that's there.
Yeah. And that's what makes it tough, but it also makes it a lot more rewarding when you can shoot a big buck here in Virginia. There's just something, knowing that you're only going to get a couple chances of shooting that deer and you're able to do it, especially when during December, it just makes it, very rewarding. But it's just how it goes. Some states, I'm a big fan of this. I think North Carolina has it where there's only select counties where you can run dogs, and certain counties they'll preserve to only gun hunting or something like West Virginia, for example, I think just started bow hunting only counties. And from a conservation standpoint, I think that's a really good thing. Just because those deer are going to have a chance to get bigger and they're not going to be as, pressured as hard, compared to having dogs running through the property the whole time.
Yeah, or deer drives. I mean, Wisconsin, when I started hunting in Wisconsin, we had 10, 15 guys driving, and we had 5 or 6 standers.
Yeah.
I mean, we just, we drive farm after farm after farm, and just that's the way it was. And
when it comes to the middle of the winter, that's sometimes you have to do that. If you're meat hunting, which we do plenty of meat hunting, just to shoot a doe. I mean, you have to do those man drives, or sometimes run dogs. And that's a lot of fun too. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, someday I'd like to and to observe it and be part of it. So, hey, in the warm up, I mentioned about the one big thing that you wish you knew today, that you wish you knew 5 years ago, that you know today, and how that would have made you a better hunter.
Patience, definitely patience. 5 years ago, I was 13, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience hunting, and my dad would usually hunt with me still. It wasn't until I was about 14 years old that I started to really hunt by myself. But patience would be the biggest thing, just because so many times I've gotten out of the stand because I'm cold or something, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go back to the camp and eat lunch or something, and I'll be walking out, and a buck will come walking through the pipeline that we have, and I'm just like, of course this happens. If I just stayed in the stand for 5 more minutes, I would have shot that deer. Same applies to duck hunting. Happened to us plenty of times. We get up to go get breakfast, mid-morning, and here comes a whole flock of geese flying in. I think patience is something that I had more of it when I was younger. I would have been more successful. But as I'm getting older, I'm learning a lot. And the last 2 seasons have been great for me.
How have they been great?
So this year I killed, before I say that, patience also in turkey hunting. That's really where it, comes into play, because you have to wait on that bird to come in. The last 2 years have been pretty successful. We've killed some pretty nice bucks and a lot of turkeys. And the reason we killed a lot of turkeys is just because we were patient with our calling, and we knew that bird was going to come in. And from calling turkeys, for a couple of years, you start to learn, when you need to call and you don't need to call. But last couple of years, we've shot some nice bucks, killed some nice turkeys, and we've limited out, on ducks before. And that's something I've only been hunting for 8 years. I haven't, completely experienced that yet. So for me, it's been, pretty good last couple of years hunting wise.
That's great. And, you think about sportsman culture. How are you going to use that as a recruiting tool? Because that the hunting public is getting older. I mean, you're a rarity, and that's why I'm glad to have you on the show, because we need millions of guys like you, not hundreds, not thousands, but millions of guys like you. And how are you going to use sportsman's culture to help generate, interest in hunting?
By creating a community, like I said, but I'll give you an example through Instagram. There's a lot of younger people on Instagram, and all it takes is for one kid to click on a hunting page or a conservation page, outdoors page, and just be like, man, I really want to do that. I've had people, send me messages on Instagram. They just shot their first deer, and they're just all they want me to do is post it for them so they can show other people. And I think that's great. And being able to do things like that just really, I think, creates a foundation for people to keep hunting for the rest of their lives. But also, I've also thought somewhere down the road, I want to, maybe you see a lot of these hunting shows that'll do charity hunts. Or make their own foundation or something like that. That's something I'm interested in doing, 10 years from now. If this really becomes something, I would love to be able to give back to others and have them experience the same, excitement and enjoyment that we get out of hunting.
Yeah, I love how you said that. I think the future of hunting obviously is in your hands. The future of hunting rests in social media and how we all on the same common ground. What's your thoughts about when somebody says, I would have shot that deer? They're negative. Let's just leave it, negative. How do you handle that?
That's a hard question, because I know I've gotten that type of feedback before on my page where, they're like, that's a small buck. I would not have shot that deer. You need your deer to mature more or whatnot. And honestly, that's one of the risks about social media. There's always going to be negative people out there that are going to be hating on the things that you like to do, even if they share, the same interests. And that's one of the things about social media that, isn't the best, because anyone can comment, anyone can share what they want. But dealing with it, just by responding to that person, just being like, I think everyone in each state has a different, or every single person that's been raised in hunting has a different view of it. You know what I mean? The way they are raised in hunting. And some people, they shoot, smaller bucks or whatnot because they're meat hunters. And that's what they want to do. Some people, they're all about trophy hunting. And I honestly think, of course, conservation and, trophy hunting and all that is great for deer, but I think whatever makes people happy, and if they're able to do it safely and responsibly, then, that's all that matters. There's always going to be people that are going to be negative about it, but whatever makes that person hunting and keeps them hunting is the most important thing.
Thanks for sharing that. We're at the time of the show. Last words, and then we're going to wrap the show.
So thank you, Bruce, for inviting me. You reached out to me on social media, and, before this, I haven't done a podcast or any type of interview before. So this is a great way to get started. But for everyone who's listening right now, Bruce is a great guy. This podcast is definitely something that's new to me, but it's definitely something that, you guys should check out on iTunes, check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and hopefully it'll keep on growing and we can keep on sharing hunting in the outdoors and show other people, what we love about it.
Chris, it's been a pleasure on behalf of hundreds of thousands of listeners across North America. You're right. You're what's right with hunting. And so with Sportsman's culture, you got a big future. And I just want to say, I really appreciate your comments this morning and just stay after it.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, stay tuned for the next show on Whitetail Rendezvous. It's going to be a fun one. We're heading to Illinois with R2K, Kyle Peterson, Randy Brewer, and Kyle Leonard. And they're going to talk about hunting mature buck on private land. One of the things that came out of the show was they wish they were more patient 5 or 10 years ago than they are now. They've had situations, as we all have. We got trail cameras up, so we know what's happening. And 15, 20 minutes after we leave our stand, Mr. Wonderful walks by. Was he just waiting for you to leave? I think so. Did he know you were there? I think so. Did he know when you left? I think so. And so, it happens enough times that there's some, evidence, crude evidence that, bucks know you're in the area. You know the bucks in the area. And so now it's a match wits game. So it's a great podcast to listen to turn up your game and figure out how to hunt mature bucks.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.